What if doctors were to drop off the radar? What if they were to drop out of the system? What if doctors were to essentially go on strike? If you saw Atlas, the giant who holds the world on his shoulders, if you saw that he stood, blood running down his chest, his knees buckling, his arms trembling, but still trying to hold the world aloft with the last of his strength, and the greater his effort, the heavier the world bore down upon his shoulders, what would you tell him? I don't know. What could he do? What would you tell him? To shrug. After all the heavy stuff that you've been through this weekend, let me tell you, this is your refreshing answer. This morning's panel features physicians who have done just this with their cash-based practices. I know that you can read, so I'm not going to read bios for you, but if you want to read bios, they're in your packet. But I am going to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Juliette Madrigal, a past president of AAPS, an experienced speaker. Dr. Jules practices in Marble Falls, Texas, and in her work with Benjamin Rush Institute, she is positively introducing third-party free practice to medical students. I invite you to enjoy this old Mother Hubbard with her 17 children, her talk on thriving in a fee-for-service cash-based practice. Dr. Madrigal.
Good morning. So I'm going to talk today about my practice and about the alternative to government-controlled medicine. I don't have any doctors in my family. We have a long, strong history of alcoholism and horse thieving. So I was the first person on my dad's side to go to college. So I didn't really know any better. So I kind of rejected all the status quo on accident. I actually got a degree in advertising and then became an EMT and then went back to school to become a physician because I fell in love with medicine when I was an EMT. When I got out of school, again, I didn't really know any better and I didn't even think to sign up with anybody or a big group. So I just opened a door, basically, took a few tongue depressors from the emergency room and kind of started. So when I first looked at the contracts from the insurance companies, it didn't make any sense to me because it was going to take me 3 months to get paid. So I thought, well, I'll just start practice and then I'll see what happens and I'll fill out all these forms in the meantime. And then as I started reading the forms, I saw that they could change your rate of pay at any time, that how long it was going to take to get paid, that there were all these restrictions. So I started filling them out like we all do. And in the meantime, I started making money, more money. And money came in, and then I could buy my own tongue depressors. And then instead of one otoscope, I had 2, and then 3. And that's really how I did it. So by the time I was at 3 months, I didn't need insurance. So I've been doing this. This is my 17th year, and I've never taken any insurance. But really, the way I do it is exactly how your fathers did it. It's the exact way. People come in, they pay me. If they can't pay, in the beginning, I would trade a lot. In the beginning, I lived in Marble Falls, which is a pretty small town, and I had a couple acres, and I would get chickens and goats, I'm not kidding, and sheep and emus, and I would trade. And in the beginning, I didn't really care if I got an emu or not, but the whole idea was that everybody has something. So people would wash my car, people would wash my kids, people would dry clean my clothes, and it worked really well. And as a result, I really do feel like I became a pillar of the community because people really knew me and they really appreciated me and I really appreciated them. So 16 years later, I'm still doing this. The other reason I decided to opt out is so when I started, I was automatically in Medicare because back then, if you went through residency, you were automatically in it. So I took Medicare for, I think, like 3 or 4 years. And then I noticed that I had patients who had cancer that I really didn't want to charge. One of the people who helped raise me actually died of ovarian cancer, which was the other reason that pushed me towards medicine. So when I looked at the Medicare and discussed it, you can't legally see people for free. And that's a very big part of my practice. So in my practice, even now, I see anybody with cancer for free. I give a discount to teachers and preachers, which sounds good, but they're also my best referrals, right? Because they know everybody. If people have to come in wearing Spurs, I give them a discount just because I kind of have a thing for cowboys. But the cool thing is I can do that. I can do whatever I want on that. If people are going through a hard time, they can pay me later. If I don't want to charge people at all, I don't have to. Oh, I also do house calls. Again, same thing your fathers did. So I make house calls usually on people who are really ill, but it's a really, as people start to die, physician care and support goes down, down, down. So we really try to reverse that. All my patients have my cell phone. In 16 years, I've only had one person abuse it. And that person is no longer in my clinic. But other than that, and that's really nice for me. Because if somebody gets sick and they're going to go to the emergency room, I'd much rather them call me first. A lot of times I can stave off what's happening. I can have them give that baby one more dose of ibuprofen. I can tell them which emergency room I'd rather them go to, and I can call the emergency room physician and tell them their story. So it's actually never hurt me, and it's always helped me, and every single phone call starts off this way. Dr. Madrigal, I'm so sorry, but. So it's pretty neat that my patients respect me to that level. I'm not a servant to them, I'm their helper, and we do our health care together. It's been extremely rewarding. I get invited to weddings. I speak at funerals. In my practice, I have 2 babies that are named after me. Well, one of them, they had 10 kids, so I think they might have been running out of names, but the other day they brought that kid in, and her name's Juliette, which is my name, and she was in the waiting room, and her mom was back with me, and she was with her other siblings, and she's wearing a tutu, of course. So she's 3. So her mom was doing something, and she said, Jules, and we both went, what? And I said, are you calling her Jules too? And she's like, we just had to. But it's pretty cool. It's a really neat practice because it really does go both ways. Yesterday when I got off the plane, one of my patients texted me and he said, did you have time to look at my lab before I went? Do you know what my hemoglobin A1C is? And I was telling my boyfriend, I'm like, I looked at least 50 labs before I left. I can't believe that, his hemoglobin A1C is 8.2, and I was a little disappointed. And I knew it, I knew it off the top of my head. I know exactly, of course I looked at it. Of course I know what it is. And my patients get to be spoiled that way. So I had a call a couple months ago from somebody who was on a cruise ship, and the cruise ship doctor said, I know it's 2 a.m, but the guy says you know what his medicines are. He's having a real hard time. I'm like, I do. I know his medicines. I know all my patients that well, which is really fun and very rewarding for both of us. The thing about it is it's just common sense, and it actually works. Some days I think it's not going to work. Some days I'll see 5 cancer patients and I'll make no money, and I think, oh gosh, turn off the lights because the electricity bill's not going to go this month, and whoever wants to go home can go home. But so far it's always worked. It's always worked because I think the community's there for me and it balances out, plus I also think God provides. I really do. It's amazing some days. I had one week that was almost all cancer patients, and the next week I got a check in the mail from one of the oncologists who retired and said, please keep doing what you're doing. And he did a little $2,000 little fund for cancer patients, which was really nice. But it seems like it just always works out. The other thing I do is I really try to cut my patients a break because I can. I can do whatever I want. Like right now, flu shots, how much is everybody charging for flu shots? $39, right? Because that's Medicare reimbursement. $39, I'm 30. Yeah! Right? So I still make money and I save people money. So I can do whatever I want on that. For Labs, I give a really discounted rate for labs. So if people, insurance won't pay for labs, or if they don't have insurance, I'm the cheapest gig in town. So, like, we have a charity hospital in our town, and a CBC is $79, and I charge $12. So it really helps the patient, and I still make money. I still make $6 off of that. Actually, I make a little more. So I still make money off of that sort of thing. I make a lot of money, and it really helps both parties. I think the thing is, if you want to actually just take care of patients, and you want it to be fair, and you charge the patients fairly, it works. This is not new, this is old. People want good care. Most of my patients now have insurance, but they still come to me because I know them, I love them, they love me back, and I take really good care of them. So if you want to get out, this is a great way to do it. I spend 99% of my time with my hands on the patient. I spend 1% of my time going through labs, and I have someone else who calls them back. If they have a question, I get on the phone or have them come back in. But almost all my time is just patient care. I don't do prior authorizations. I don't even know coding. I haven't seen the last ICD, whatever changes. I don't have to know any of that. I just have to know good medicine and how to take good care of people. It's really easy. It's really fun. All the reasons you went to medical school, that's what I do every day. All that extra stuff, I just don't do it. As far as medicine's concerned, again, I just do what I want. If you do this, you'll attract the kind of people you want, I think, and the other ones will leave. People who want really weird, freaky things, or want too much, or I probably won't like me. People who want an old-fashioned doctor who's going to come out and see you on her way home from work, they're going to like me. Those are the people I like. You can also charge whatever you want for everything. I hate abscesses. I'm an internist. We don't do those because they're gross. But I'm in a small town, and sometimes people can't go to the surgeon for an abscess, so I charge a lot for those. And then I don't really hate them that much. Works really well. And if things are easy, I don't have to charge very much. I do a lot of things called BOGOs, which is buy one, get one free, which is if I'm worried about you, I'm going to have you come back in 1 or 2 days, and I'm not even going to charge you because it's just so I can sleep better at night. And that's worth a ton to me too. And again, somehow it all works out. As far as money's concerned, I think if you make the switch over, you'll be very happy with your financial bottom line too. I work 4 days a week. I think she said I'm Mother Hubbard, so I've had 17 kids live with me. So I started out with exchange students, then I did foster care, then I did emergency foster care. Now I do everything. So I really want to have time to help raise and grow our next generation. So I work 4 days a week. I work from 9:30-ish till the 6, and I'm done in just those 4 days a week. And I make about 50% more than most people in my field do on average, because it's just money in, money out. What's left in the cash drawer at the end of the day is how much I take home. And it's really surprising when you charge a fair rate and you take good care of people, it actually works really well. Because again, I don't have a bunch of overhead. I just have 3 employees that work for me. I don't have to have somebody else on the phone. I don't have to have all the government paperwork. I don't have to have that. It's just money in, money out. If I work really hard one day, I make more money. If I don't work very hard, I don't make as much. I love that. I like eating what I kill. I don't like killing things, but but it works really well. I think the biggest thing about having this practice, I guess there's 2 things. The one thing is, it's every day it's joy. There's not a single day that I don't come home and that I'm not happy that I have the job that I have. Every day I get to do things that if other people got to do them once in their life, it would be a big deal. And you guys do too. I know you do, because I mean, we save lives, we find things, we bring families together, we're there for support. But when you don't have the government part at the end of the day or intervening all day long, it's so much sweeter. So I love every day I go to work. I never have a day that I hate it. And I think the whole idea of finding joy is huge. And the second thing is what I've talked about before, is that you can love on your patients and they can love you back. And that, I think, gets missed, and we get so overwhelmed with all the paperwork and all the government interventions that the patients don't have time to love on their physicians anymore either. So I think that's a really big thing. And back to what Marilyn was saying about pillar of the community, if you're in a community and you do those things, you do become very important. I hope that Marble Falls shuts down on the day I die. I do. So I'm like, and make it not a work day, because I don't want people to miss work if I have a funeral. But I do want to be a pillar of the community, and I hope that I am, and I work really hard to be that way, but my patients give it right back. And one of my patients had cancer. Her husband had died of cancer, and she had an undifferentiated sarcoma that went into remission and then recurred. That lady left me a really nice trust fund. That trust fund is for me to do something really cool every day until I can't do it. I mean, every year until I can't do it anymore. That's pretty cool, especially from a family of horse thieves and alcoholics. I'm very spoiled and I'm very blessed. I think what I would say to you is, if you're thinking about doing this, AAPS is a great way to let you make that change. We have so much information on what I call jumping off the cliff, because I know that's what it feels like. It feels like a huge commitment and that everything's going to change, and everything will change, but it will change for the better. And I think you'll be a lot happier, your patients will be happier, and you'll find a lot more joy in life.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Josh Umbehr, MD. Hey, Josh, I have a joke for you. You can. I'll let you even have the wiring there. So I've got a joke for you. What does a Wildcat grad call a Jayhawk grad in 5 years? Boss. In this case, Dr. Josh is both, and he calls himself boss. Inspired by the concepts found in the same epic that I quoted earlier, he even named his DPC practice Atlas MD. May I introduce Dr. Josh.
Thank you very much. That was a great quote, a great intro. It is a classic book and a favorite of mine. I've read it 17 times. I cheated. I listened to the last 8 or so that makes it a whole lot easier. Now, I've been called a lot of things in my life, but never a horse thief. So I have a bucket list thing left to do. Growing up, my dad was a trash man. He's a lawyer now, so I still tell people he's a trash man. Sorry, Phil. Phil is the one exception, though. He is an excellent trash man and a fantastic lawyer. But we saw early on the value of working directly for people. And then when I started getting into medicine in undergrad, I saw the confusion when insurance was involved. And it just got in between the patient and the doctor. And it didn't seem to make anything better at the outpatient level. And so we watched insurance-free practices for about 10 years as we moved through undergrad and med school and residency. And the movement was slow because I don't think they quite figured out the model. But the frustration was there for sure. As doctors want to focus on patients, not on paperwork. And every year it was more paperwork. But I think there's a great quote: if you want a new idea, read an old book. And I think most of you will remember the times where insurance was less of an intrusion and where you could focus on patients and do the right thing. And I think that's what we want to get back to. Is the essentials. Elon Musk talks about first principles thinking. What are the essentials? What are the basics necessary to accomplish your goal? And in healthcare, it's providers and patients. Doctors and patients, nurses and patients, that's it. Insurance was added in as a secondary thought. Christy Ford Chaplin, completely different professor of economic medical history, I think at Cambridge, has written a book on healthcare, and it talks about how in the 20s and 30s they called it prepaid models, because that's what worked best. You'd pay essentially a membership, and the doctors or the clinics would care for you. And they had this interesting self-balancing need to provide enough care to make it useful, but not too much care as to run themselves out of business. And they would compete by bringing in specialists to handle the hard cases because they know they lived and died on the quality of their brand. And if patients didn't think they were doing everything they could for them specifically, they would move on to the next clinic that had a membership and focus their care there. So I think we can go back to those days where we prove our value to our patients directly. We started our practice, Atlas MD, in 2010 with that concept that let's go back to how simple it could be. Silicon Valley is always trying to simplify things. Airbnb, Uber, Netflix, you can track their corporate history. They removed obstacles. They didn't add more obstacles, and that's why they're so successful. And I think the value of direct primary care is it continues to remove obstacles for our patients and add value wherever it can. You know, we are at the top of the healthcare system if we choose to be. We touch medicines, we touch labs, we touch imaging, we touch pathology. We do all of this. But for forever, we've sort of blamed other people. Insurance should fix this. Government should fix it. Employers should fix it. And none of them could because none of them are doctors. So then if we take ownership or fault for the problem, then we can take ownership and responsibility for the solution. And the solution is just as simple as opting out of insurance for when it's appropriate. Yes, there's expensive things. If my house burns down, I'm going to be happy I had insurance. Car wrecks, insurance makes a lot of sense. But if you can get medications for a penny a pill, cheaper than Walmart, shouldn't we? I mean, isn't that what we want to do for our patients? Even though not everybody supports the idea of business in medicine, if done right, they're excellent bedfellows because the patient benefits. So our model is a membership model, $10 for kids, $50, $75, or $100 for adults, for unlimited home visits, work visits, office visits, telemedicine, no copays. All the procedures we can do in the office are free, and wholesale pricing on medications, labs, pathology, imaging, etc. We just threw as much value at it as we could because we were essentially starving artists. You know, fresh out of residency, brand new doctor, no name, no brand, and a dream to not go bankrupt. And so far, we're avoiding that. But the movement has grown because patients were receptive to that value. It was fresh again. It was this idea that it was simple. If I need to text my doctor, I just text my doctor. There wasn't hassles or hoops. They felt like you were caring for them directly because you weren't going through a third party to ask for permission to care for them. And then doctors saw that the direct primary care physicians were the happiest because they didn't have to code or know anything about coding or deal with prior auths. Because when medicine, a CBC or a TSH is $1.69, you don't have to ask insurance for permission. If you're worried, you check it. If it helps the patient, you've done a good thing. And doctors were responding to that. Now we've been able to help over 550 physicians convert to the direct care model in the last few years. And not because we're special, it's because the simplicity of the model makes sense. It fits into how people want to get health care, how doctors want to provide it. It's a very simple thing. Why should we do anything that we do in life? Simon Sinek has a great TED Talk in a book by the same title, is start with why. And businesses will start with a why of we really want to enrich your lives with X, Y, or Z. But I think we have the best why of any business, and that's our patients. We have an ability to reach out and help people in need in a way that hasn't been done in a very long time. So that now they don't worry about their breast cancer chemotherapy when it's $6 a month. They don't worry about their health insurance when it's 50% cheaper and they can take some of those dollars and invest in their family, their homes, their education. If we save that much value, we're doing such a good thing for the system that it can't help but expand it and roll. And now it's being adopted and accepted by a number of state agencies in the sense of passing laws through the tireless efforts of Phil to say this is a good thing, and we want to embrace this. Because politicians, insurance companies, physicians, patients, they're all seeing that the current model isn't working. And we gave it a good long try, but we can't go up 30% every year. So I think it behooves physicians to come back to this model and say, what is the best thing we can do for our patients? And how do we add value? Well, by removing obstacles. And again, bringing the care that our patients need right to their doorstep. And so it's been an honor and a privilege to be able to do that for so long for our patients and to guide so many other doctors through that process. And I really feel that we're about to hit the hockey stick point in the curve where insurance-free direct care practices go from a niche to the mainstream, because Pandora's box of affordable care has been opened. Why would we do anything else? The idea of going back and billing a patient $100 for something we get wholesale for $5 just seems mean at this point. Patients don't want that. Once they hear a better solution, they're attracted to it. I know because every time we're on Sean Hannity, we get flooded with calls for, is there a doctor like this in my area? And thankfully, I send them to Phil's website and say, well, he does all the hard work of keeping that list updated, and then gets flooded with emails and requests. And for every 100 amazing people, there's one kooky person who has a solution to, cold fusion or something that they want you to talk about. But by and large, people are eager and hungry and desperate for physicians who understand that there's a better way to practice medicine. And it's exciting that AAPS has been a long-time supporter of that. So they've done great work and will continue to do great work, and we're excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Josh. So is there anybody in here who has not read Atlas Shrugged? Oh my goodness, you need to look this up. Galt's Gulch really is a real thing, I do believe.